Hi, my name is Simon Hedley, known to my clients and partners as a strategic alchemist and an ultimate connector. I'm a chartered accountant who brings together and bridges the worlds of business philosophy, finance, marketing, optimization, ontology, and so much more. Always focused on one thing, the simple idea that can make the difference to people and projects, so we can tip the scales in their favor and get them complete. Pause, Stop, Reset is all about the three little words that can make the difference. They have for me and my clients, and I hope they will for you too. During the show, you'll get to learn about my guests' real-life experiences and the insights and lessons they've learned as they've navigated the resets in their personal and business lives, which you'll be able to leverage yourself. So let's start the show. Hello, I'm Simon Hedley, and welcome to this episode of Pause, Stop, Reset. Today I'm joined by the one and only Daven Michaels. I've known him for over a decade, and his journey starts way before that. He actually began his entrepreneurial journey at 15, and he's built and sold multiple companies, been on New York Times Bestseller Lists, and he's traveled the globe many times over and done so much things I can't even keep up with him. He's an entrepreneur, an educator, and an author, and a real advocate for people focused on personal and business growth. And I'm proud to call him a friend. And I'm so excited to have him on today's show to find out more about the things I haven't really learned about you, Daven, let's be honest. So with that said, without further ado, Daven, welcome to Pause, Stop, Reset.
Hey, amigo, it's great to be here. Good morning. Yeah, we're still morning from beautiful Puerto Rico, not a backdrop. And it's great to see you.
And I'll be with you live in Puerto Rico in a few months, hopefully.
Yes. And we'll talk more about that as we progress in the interview, yeah?
Hopefully, that'd be good.
Yeah, great.
Let's begin at the beginning, because obviously people listening in, watching in, may not know you at all, right? So who are you and what are you focused on today?
Sure. Well, I'm Daven Michaels. I'm like you said, a New York Times bestselling author. My 10th book is in the bookstores right now. Books have been a big part of my life. I've been in numerous industries, but primarily around outsourcing, business, marketing, and entertainment, I suppose. And I have a truly unique story, but as I've traveled the globe and I've spoken to so many entrepreneurs, I realize they all have unique stories. But I'll give you the quickie. I started my business when I was 15, had no clue what I was doing. I was designing clothing for music groups. It was the early 80s, and my bands had nothing going on. But an amazing thing happened. MTV came on the air, changed the face of music, changed my life. And so I was working with these bands that had nothing going on within within months. Most of my bands had record deals. Within a year, they're selling millions of albums. And that was just an amazing ride, going from playing like venues of 600 people, then 2,500, then 5,000, 10,000, 25,000, 50,000 stadiums, all within a year. So it was really a wild ride. From there, I started a telecommunications company. That was great. I had an exit there, and that moment in time kind of changed my life. And then from there, I was the biggest EDM event producer in the US. I would throw parties for 20,000 people a night. How'd you like to be on my guest list? And because of that built-in fan base, I had a short career as a recording artist, pretty long career as a music and television producer, about 15 years. And then I started a sleepy little company way too early. I always say you can always tell who the pioneers are because they're the ones with the arrows in their back. But I started a little outsourcing company. It's something that entrepreneurs needed, but they didn't want it because they didn't know it existed. But so, it took a couple of years to muddle through it and build an audience. And we can talk a little bit more about that too. But today we're merged with a very large conglomerate with thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of employees on 3 continents. And today I'm a little bit semi-retired. I'm on the board of several companies, and today I'm mostly involved in just the things I'm passionate about. A lot of philanthropic pursuits, a lot of really cool initiatives here in Puerto Rico, and that's the scoop. That's my business background in 5 minutes.
And as you say, just a few resets there.
Resets, yeah.
My selfishness for me, really. Those bands that took sort of 50,000 stadiums, who are we talking about? Anybody we know?
My first band that took off was the Thompson Twins. So it was very interesting. So they were a big group. And when I say big, they had a lot of members, and they put out 3 albums in your neck of the woods in the UK. And, they had some mild success. And then they had a hit song called Lies, Lies. We don't really know Lies as much here in the US, but in the UK, but in the UK, it was huge. Right. And so that was a big song, but because they were on an independent and because I believe they were on an independent, because they had so many members in the band and they were recouping from the prior albums. They weren't making any money. And so Tom realized, and Joe and Alana, that if they really wanted to make it happen, they'd have to kind of leave and go off on their own. So they did. They became a trio. And then Lies was kind of what got us started through the US, but then Hold Me Now came out, and that's what changed everything, because Hold Me Now literally became an anthem, for a year, and that changed everything. That's when we went from small venues to stadiums. It was remarkable.
What were you doing for them? With obviously
clothing, designing their clothing.
So this is so you're watching the normal fashion designer. So what I've been around myself a bit, helping them. They struggle to get anybody to see their stuff, and you're seeing your work out to massive.
Yeah, exactly. So I designed clothing for them, and Alana designed a lot of their clothing, way more than I did. So, but yeah, I did. Twins were one of my bands: Duran Duran, Cyndi Lauper, Prince, Madonna.
Now, this is why we love Daven, because I promise you, most people that I think that know you have no idea about that at all.
Yeah, some do, some don't. Yeah, people have known me for a long time. My oldest friends, and I have a lot of them, lived it. And so they got to experience it with me. It was neat. It was. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie. I think it's called Less Than Famous, or more than Almost Famous. Almost Famous.
Yeah.
But you see, he travels with the band, and it's just unreal. And that's what it was like for us too. It was pretty unreal.
It's when I learned about your EDM background, I was sort of going off the normal questions. I had background with CDJs being promoted and radio stations for bass nights. And it was this sort of strange thing of adjacent, but it's a really fascinating space because you know them as humans, not just that sort of fan attached thing that goes on.
Yeah, I had a great run in EDM. So I'm not the creator of the EDM movement, but in the US, I'm the guy that commercialized it. So I wasn't the first level, I was the second level. So when I came into the scene, it was a small fledgling scene, undergrounds, 500 people out a night in LA, and I took it to 20,000 people a night. Big events.
Just huge, right? Getting 1,000 people there is a lot of work. Getting 20,000 regularly is huge.
Yeah, it was cool. It was cool. Like when I got married, I had 4,200 people at my wedding, and that was televised on MTV. Remind me, I'll send you the link. It was pretty. It was pretty awesome. And so it was great, but the scene when I was a pioneer in that 89 to 95, and then the scene in the UK, like in Europe, it took off. EDM began to adoption in probably the early 2000s, right? But for us, it didn't. It went like this for decades, for a decade. Yeah,
R&B
10 years.
Back, rock comes back. It's always been a strange one.
10 years. Yeah, I moved on and got into music production. But a friend of mine that used to go to my parties continued and weathered those 10 years. And now he's the biggest EDM event producer in the world, Pasquale Rotella. He's still a dear friend of over 30 years. And so just to put this in perspective, I might have had 20,000 people at my events in an evening. He just did his event in Vegas, his annual event. He had 458,000 people at that event. So almost 500,000
My
people.
brain's melting.
Exactly.
So we're going not off topic, but it's so relevant, right? Because when it started, you'd never imagine the Tomorrowland, these mega events that are just so huge in scale and production, not $100,000 budget.
Yeah, exactly. It's been a while since I've asked Pasquale what his production budget is, but I'm sure Vegas alone is probably 60, 70 million. I would think at least maybe 100 million now. And that's just one of his events. He does 253 events a year. They're not all at that scale, but yeah, it's pretty insane. He sold half of his company to Live Nation about a decade ago.
Well, I think we go back to sort of pausing in the fun stuff. Well, it isn't fun, but go back to that sort of life roller coaster. If you look back at your life till now, what have been the biggest shifts and resets you've been through?
It's interesting. You said resets, but then you said something a little earlier that kind of made me realize your reset is really twofold, right? It can be I think another word for reset's a pivot, right? But also reinvention, right? Because you said, you've done several resets over the years, and so I've been in several businesses over the years. So yeah, it's all of the above. So sorry, what was the question again? Tell us about your resets.
Well, we'll bring it out, right? Yeah. So it isn't just like I've had a bad thing and I've changed. It can be things and it gets better.
Yeah.
with this, and then suddenly MTV opens up and changes
Yeah.
our business model. So really, it's like if you look back on your whole life and you're making the Daven Michaels movie, right? Like scene 1, scene 2, scene 3. What are those big shift resets that you've been through?
Oh, that's a really, really great question. When I saw this on paper, I was like, oh, reset, huh? But now that you're saying it, I find this is a very interesting topic. So well played, Simon. So okay, so reset. So in the early days, my first business, I was just trying to get a nut, right? I was just trying to figure it out. I didn't have any money. I didn't have anything. And so luckily, most entrepreneurs will take credit for their luck. They'll say, oh, somebody say, oh, you're lucky. And they'll say, well, luck is when preparedness meets opportunity, right? And to a certain degree, of course, that's always true. But if you're successful in life or in business, the odds are you've had some just great luck, right? I mean, you just need some luck on your side. There's plenty of brilliant people with great ideas who didn't make it. They might have just not had some bad luck, right? But so I had some good luck early on, which was cool. So that was business one. It was a glamorous and cool business, but I realized that it didn't exactly match my personality, my clothing company, and I'll tell you why. So what's happening is I loved it. Like when we were on tour and stuff, that was cool. But when I was waiting on my artists, it was like I was waiting on them. I had had a job before that. And where I waited on people and I enjoyed it, but I figured having my own business would mean not waiting on people per se, right? But I was. So that was like, it was cool, but I wanted something else. So then I became enamored with this idea of residual income, which, every business today, you have residual income, but I was just a kid. I didn't know anything about that. And so I started a telecommunications company. It wasn't glamorous, but it had residual income. I just found that very interesting. So that was a total reinvention, right? It was a business that I could, a lot of time you'll hear gurus say, follow your passion, and that's how you'll be successful. I don't agree with that methodology. I feel like, sometimes you have to start with what you can be passionate about until such time as you can follow your passions, right? And because I meet plenty of people that are following their passion, they're passionate and they're broke. And I'll tell you, being broke it'll hinder you all the way because money is the catalyst for creating progress, right? And so I started a telecommunications company. I was in the paging business back before there were no cell phones, and that was the cell phone of the day. And was that a glamorous business? No. Did it match my personality? No. Did I have fun? I did. It was a really fun business. I had a young staff and they were all great and it was super fun. And I made a lot of money. I was making boatloads of cash like at such a young age that I loved that. It was fun. I was buying toys and stuff for my friends and I thought it was never going to end. Right. And so that was cool. And then I sold the company. I had a good exit. So that was a total reinvention. Right. But then I'm like, look, entertainment really is my passion. And so a buddy of mine came to me who was a DJ, my one of my best buds who's still a friend today, Beej. And he's like, hey, he goes, with my connections and your business prowess, I think we could take this little underground nightclub scene and turn it into something. And we did. So now, boom, I was back in the entertainment business again, which was really great. And then it was time to move on. And so, but I stayed in the entertainment business, but I, reinvented myself as a recording artist. And then a couple of years later as a music producer. And I was in that business for like 12 years. And then, and by the way, when you come, like we're in my office right now, and if I walk over here, you can see all the gold and platinum records that I did. I had a huge run in music, like super successful. So it's like, if you're having that kind of success, why get out of it? And I'll tell you why. One word. And that was Napster. So 50 million people, if you're old enough to remember this, were downloading free music. And I saw the writing on the wall. I thought it was the end of the music business. And to a certain degree, I was right. Like, people were getting it free. And somehow this brilliant company got people to pay for music again, right? And that was Apple, because innovation can do that. But who would have thought? Like, how do you say, hey, music is all free forever now, everybody? And then Apple comes around and says, no, we're going to charge for it. And people go, okay, we'd rather pay for it. Whoa. I mean, you have to create an amazing product to get people to do that, right? And Apple did, but it's still a fraction of what it used to be. There's really no money unless you're super top tier in the publishing side of music, or at least yes, there's some money in publishing, but not in music sales, right? Because in my day, we charged $18, $19 for an album, and today $10 for all you can eat, right? If you're even paying for it. So it's a whole different model. So I thought it was done. And so I bounced and I was like, well, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I was great at producing music. And I was like, well, maybe I can produce television. I don't know anything about it, but it's producing. It can't be much different, right? And so I hired a team of almost 100 people. And unbeknownst to them, they were teaching me how to produce television. So I started a production company.
You go from nothing to 100 staff, right? That's a big play.
Well, I did. It wasn't nothing. I had a staff in the music business, right? And so a lot of them came over to the TV business. And so I learned to produce television. This was at the beginning of reality television, but we didn't have any hits because I was only in the business for a few years. And then I started a little sleepy outsourcing company that was nothing. But that company obviously grew into a pretty massive company. But it was not a rapid growth company. It took almost 15 years. But the cool thing about that business, I absolutely loved it because, first of all, as a people business, I love people, but I brought my personality into that business. So I started speaking all over the globe and kind of put the company on the map and built a brand around that. And I was entertaining. I love to entertain. The only difference is I was edutaining rather than straight up entertaining. And it was great. So that was an example of a reinvention, but kind of, my reinvention, right? By my own design. And so, yeah, so those were kind of the reinventions I've had along the way. I was thinking, because resets, you were asked about resets, I will share like a really shitty reset. Because I think you like to grab those too, right? So I'll tell you something interesting. Right around year 8 at 123 Employee, which is my outsourcing company, it was my outsourcing company. It still is, but now I just have a job. I'm CEO. But right around year 8, our growth curve was consistently like this. Year 8 was, our greatest year. And I was like, well, I want to take it to the next level. And I ended up bringing on a consultant, and he had some amazing ideas. He was brilliant, and he loved me, and I loved him. He was a very good guy, great guy. In the end, he got it wrong. And then he, pulled some stunts, if you will. So, we did not part ways well. But I still hold him in a high regard. He was really a good guy, and he had good intentions. Anyways, one of the ideas of the business, we had built a new sales floor. We had about 35 people. That was a shit show. But anyways, his idea was, hey, why don't we take all customer service calls and run them through sales? So instead of going straight to customer service, somebody has an issue, so a salesperson picks up, I'm having problems with my employee, this, that. Okay, no problem. I'm going to get you over to customer service. Real quick, Simon, before I do that,
wow,
can I just quickly ask you, what challenges you're facing in your business today? Oh, I don't have enough of this or that. Oh, well, cool. You know what, Simon, that's something I could probably help you with. I know right now you have a customer service issue, so I'm not going to get in the way of that. But would you mind if I follow up with you, next week, talk to you more about that? Yeah, okay, that'd be fine. Great. And then through to customer service. So on paper, that sounds like a pretty good idea, right? I mean, that's
on
actually
paper, Jedi genius done the way you say, not like hard sell.
Exactly.
But
Right.
that's really clever. Yeah.
Yeah, it was very clever. It was not my idea. It was his. Great idea. But here, okay, so on paper, that's what it looks like. In reality, here's what it looks like. Salesperson picks it up. Oh, yeah, okay, I'm going to pass you customer service. Can I ask you what's and then there's no opportunity. There's an opportunity, and then they don't give a shit, and they don't pass it well to customer service, and then it falls through the cracks. Right now, you got a pissed off person that didn't get customer service that instead got a sales pitch. Right.
Yeah, and they're going, I've just told the guy what the problem is. And it's that. Yeah, I get it.
It was just poorly executed, and that's because we were growing so rapidly. And what was happening is during that time, our revenue was going through the roof. It was going really high. But what was happening is we were losing our base of customers. Our base that had been with us for years and years and years. They were dropping off, but we kept seeing revenue numbers going up because we had lots of new customers, right? But we weren't taking care of our old customers. And then finally, we had the realization of what was going on. And I'll tell you how we had that realization. So because we were having customer service issues, we went from almost a non-existent chargeback rate in our merchant accounts to 1%, then to 2%. And I told our consultant, I'm like, look, we're at 2%. We need to get this checked quickly. Then we get hit 3%. I'm like, listen, we've got to nip this in the bud now. 4%. I'm like, we have to fix this, 5%. Wow. And then of course the phone rings, right? And so now it's luckily I had a rep at PayPal who was doing our merchant processing at the time. And and I had a great relationship with her, and she said, look, Risk wants to talk to you. So of course. And so I get on the call with Risk, and they go, hey, we would have just canceled your account of a decade because they don't care. But your account rep spoke very highly of you and explained that you were, a legitimate business. So, we're going to have to put you on a reserve. And they wanted to put me on a 20% rolling reserve. Okay. And I was like, well, look, on a good day, my profit margin is 20%. So you're like essentially cutting out all my profit margin, and they go, well, okay, we're conscious of that. We'll put you on a 180-day, 10% rolling reserve, which was still shitty, right? It was terrible. But anyways, they did that and we weathered it. Oh, but anyway, so what happened was this methodology almost put us out of business. And you're 8 years old, you're a solid company with hundreds and hundreds of employees. And how does that even happen? You think you're bulletproof.
From nothing to that was like 6 months, 3 months. Like what was
when the chargeback? Yeah. So the zenith of that from 0 to 5% was probably 6 months. Yeah.
You've gone from stable company, we're mature, and suddenly it's like, whoa, cash. And cash is king in a business, right? The cash.
We had all kinds of problems at that juncture. On top of that, 35, we had hundreds of employees in the Philippines. Was not problematic for the most part. 35 employees in the U.S. and I wanted to shoot myself in the head. It was US horrible.
Sales force. It wasn't the Philippine sales force. It was the US sales force. Oh, wow. Complete different culture mismatch between the American sales guy and the Philippines.
No, I'm just talking about just the issues that all of our people in Vegas had. It was just like, oh God, just baby mama drama. So anyways,
so how did you weather? How did you get?
Well, we had to reinvent ourselves. We needed a big infusion of capital to go back and fix everything. And so we brought the team together. We came up with an idea. We decided to do a new launch. The whole thing took probably 6 months, and we saved the company. But it was really a testament to the team. And I think the lesson to be gleaned from that is that never rest on your laurels. Never think you have it all dialed in and you're good, right? Because you never know. So you have to have contingency plans, and you have to plan for those tough times, right? Like who could have planned for COVID? But now we know you got to plan for COVID. We happened to double our company size during COVID, but that's because we were lucky. But not all businesses did, right? If you had a retail business, you did not, right? So. So that's an example of kind of a reset.
You now get where we love Daven, and so much in there, right, to get the juice out of that. And yeah, I really love that. And also curious, when did you move to Puerto Rico? So obviously it's a big switch from LA to there. Yeah.
So we lived in Hollywood Hills forever, and we were paying a ridiculous amount of tax, like 60, 63%, something high, 53, 55, very high tax. Almost half of every dollar went to taxes. And then we moved to Vegas to get rid of the state tax, which helped. And we lived in a high rise on the Strip for 5 years. And that was super fun. I recommend that to anybody. Vegas is the best place in the nation for networking and so much fun if you live on the Strip. Most people live off the Strip. They never go to the Strip. We lived on the Strip and only went to the Strip. 24-hour lifestyle, best food, best shows. Your best friends come see you every week. It was really fun. And then we moved to Puerto Rico over 5 years ago, just after Hurricane Maria. And we moved here because there's a major tax benefit to being here. So if you're a U.S. citizen and you jump through the legal hoops, we pay very little tax. So we pay 4% federal income tax. We pay 0% cap gains, 0% dividends. And as you can imagine, that's a big game changer. I work for the federal government about 4% of the year now, which is neat. And there's
it's like 40% the low. Like it gets fun.
Yeah. And you can even, there's some programs you can do to get you down to as low as 1% tax. And it's the only penalty is you have to live in paradise. So it's you do have to jump through some legal hoops. This has to be your home. You can't game it. You have to live here. And it's only for export services. So if I start a business in Puerto Rico, then I have to pay regular taxes on it. But if anything that's exported, anything I can run from here on the island, is essentially covered under that. And Also, the no cap gains for investments is great too. So it's certainly, it makes a big difference, right? And then on top of that, the deal flow is exceptional because you're hanging out with centimillionaires, decamillionaires, some billionaires. When I moved to Puerto Rico, I knew a couple of billionaires barely. Like if you'd asked them if they knew me, they might be like, oh, maybe, I don't remember, right? Now I've got 20 on speed dial, right? We go jet skiing together. So it's made me think differently. My deals are different now, and it's been really exciting. And the cool thing too, for me personally, is this is a small island, fully developed. We are not third world at all. We're not first world either, but we're part of the U.S. So, we're kind of somewhere in the middle, like second world, if you will. But we have about 3 million people here on the island. And but we have things you'd see in the U.S. We have, STK Steakhouse, and we have all the fast food chains. And I mean, it is the U.S. And you have all the conveniences of the U.S. Oh, my point was, for me personally, because it's 3 million population, less than 3 million, you can really make an impact if you want to. And so I'm a big tribe builder, a community builder. I just enjoy doing it. I love people, so I love to go deep with people, and I measure my success in life in the amount of love and friendships that I have in my life, and experiences. I'm an experience junkie. And so when I moved here, I started a little club, a little social club. And this was just after Hurricane Maria, so everything was very quiet. A lot of people left the island, and so we would get 5 people that would show up once a month for these events. Well, fast forward 5 years later, we have over 1,000 people in the San Juan Social Club, and I do have an event once a month at curated locations across the island. It is purely a public service; it's free, and I do it to bring Puerto Ricans together with New Ricans for food, fun, drinks, and dialogue. And from that, anything's really possible. And it's a very unsophisticated model with a very sophisticated purpose. I've learned that there's no friction when it comes to food and drinks. Like, Simon, let's go grab a cocktail. You're not going to be like, oh, I don't. Well, you might say I don't drink, but I'd be like, well, do you eat? And you'd be like, yes, I eat. So let's go. And from there, anything's possible, right? And so I really did that to kind of just bring everyone together. And we've had some great things. So I stem from that. So we're at the end of the year right now. I'm just sitting down to write a little recap for the year that I'm going to send out to our group. And I was kind of thinking about what we did this year. Well, we had 12 amazing events, 2 of which was with the former Secretary of Economic Development to Puerto Rico. I did a couple of learning events where I taught people about publishing. We helped the Boys and Girls Club here raise almost $300,000 in a day, a record day for them. Because we have a philanthropic mission as well. We bought 3,000 toys for underprivileged kids in Puerto Rico. And as a result, 400 families that would not have had Christmas are going to have toys under their trees this year. And it's like, I feel really good about that, and it's purely selfish. I love doing it, right? I mean, it's just such a great feeling. And so it's been great. And then we also we announced our first group cruise. So next year, we have our first annual San Juan Social Club cruise, of which you are speaking on that cruise, which I'm excited about. And we have almost 250 very high-level, successful founders and executives that are going on that cruise with us. We have some world-class speakers, including Simon and his partner, Tom Matson. We have 2 former Secretary of Economic Developments to Puerto Rico will be speaking. We have John Najarian from CNBC. We have Joel Comm, a New York Times bestselling author. We have a futurist. We have there's one other person I was thinking of. Oh, yes, we have Harry Dent, the famous economist, and just as well, and I'll be speaking as well. Just some amazing thought leaders, and it's primarily just fun and food and drinking and having a great time, but also some learning as well. Our people really love learning, and we're on Virgin, which is the hottest cruise line on the seas. We leave out of San Juan, Puerto Rico, and we'll be back to San Juan. It's a week long. And I'm just so excited about it. This is something I've always wanted to do. Simon, you and I
we met
we met on Yeah, a decade ago, we met on another group cruise called the Marketers Cruise, which is all the top marketers from all over the world, about 450 of us. And I've spoken on that cruise for the last decade. And there's three byproducts that really came from me speaking on that cruise. One, I made tens of millions of dollars from those connections, joint ventures, what have you. Two, because it was a global audience of people that I was doing business with, they went back to their respective countries and spread the word of me. And that's how I became a global brand in my space. I have millions of followers all over the world now. And lastly, all our best friends came from that cruise. And why is that? Well, if you're sequestered with somebody for a week and you're having great adventures and meals with them, you form a tight bond, you go deeper, you learn about their pain points, you figure out ways to join venture and make more money, and they become your best friends because you spend more time with them. And so I wanted, from the moment I got to Puerto Rico, day 2 of being in Puerto Rico, I was like, I want to do a Puerto Rico cruise. But it was bad timing. Hurricane Maria, the island was rebuilding, but now the timing's right. And so we're doing the first one, and I'm super pumped about it. It's going to be great. And if we can, let's put a link in your show notes if people want to come on this year or the next year. It's an unbelievably high level group of entrepreneurs. And by the way, the cruise is for people that live in Puerto Rico or people outside of Puerto Rico that want to learn. If they want to network, make friends, and learn about all of Puerto Rico's amazing resources and opportunities. And can I share some of those opportunities?
We haven't even got to question 2, but yes, go ahead.
Oh yeah, well, who cares? They're just a catalyst, right? We're freestyling.
Yeah, and you're having fun. Look, this is our time to talk, right? So, and what's great about what I'm loving the conversation we're having, there's the lessons behind what we're talking about, right?
Yeah, sure.
Like when you went, they said there's like different deal flow. I'm thinking differently. Yeah, you do. You go to Monte Carlo, you go to Bora Bora, Hawaii the first time. You go, this is not like how I grew up in London or up north. Right. It's a whole different world. So sure. What opportunities that are coming up?
Yeah, so just kind of sharing the mission of the cruise. It's for people that want to learn more about Puerto Rico's amazing opportunities and programs and stuff. So I'll just give you a few examples. So we talked about Act 60, which takes care of your cap gains and your corporate income and dividends. Well, there's about 70 different acts, okay, and they all are very unique and interesting. So I'll give you an example. I have a car that is a hybrid electric. It has a plug. You plug it in, and it can do up to 19 miles on fully electric. That's it, just 19 miles. But because it has a plug, you can import any car with a plug into Puerto Rico with zero export or import tax, which is normally 30%. So bringing in that car, I might have spent like 60, 70,000 in tax, and I paid zero. That's one example. Another is opportunity zones. So in the US, we have what's called opportunity zones, where if you build or buy in lower class, that's not right, in let's call it impoverished areas, you essentially, there's like a 10-year tax deferral scheme, if you will, and to incentivize people to build in these, up and coming areas. Well, what's amazing, 97% of all of Puerto Rico is an opportunity zone. It's unbelievable. Even beautiful areas. This beautiful area that I live in, believe it or not, is actually an opportunity zone too. That's crazy. We have a hospitality tax. If you have a property, it could be an Airbnb that you buy or you rehab, and it's either 7 or 8 bedrooms and bathrooms, then you can get a 40% tax rebate for the purchase and construction. So for example, let's say I buy $1 million property, I invest $1 million fixing it up, I will get back $600,000 in tax credits. Now, you can sell those tax credits for around 95 cents on the dollar. So essentially, you're going to get back almost over $500,000. Unbelievable. That's just one example. Another is we have an entertainment tax credit. So my cousin Danny she has a pilot for Amazon. She's a producer for Amazon. And she came out here to shoot her pilot. She got back 40%. Unbelievable. Now, her pilot was shot in Cuba, but they cheated it for Puerto Rico. Totally easy to do. The new Fantasy Island shot here in Puerto Rico. Lots of Marvel and DC has been shot here in Puerto Rico. And that's just some examples. There's another 57, 70, 65 more of these amazing acts, and they're all incredible because economic incentives is how we attract people to Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
And so you'll learn about all that stuff on the cruise. It's really cool.
I guess you're thinking really differently. I already have a sense of the next question, by the way. We talk about pausing, taking that breath and then going back to something, stopping, going right enough, and the reset, kind of the pivot points. I get a sense that resetting for you is easy now, right? You can chop and change.
I guess so, yeah.
Is pausing easy? Take time out and properly
No, I'm terrible at that. I actually told my girlfriend Liz that when, that I was going to just kind of semi-retire now and just chillax, but I haven't done that. I'm very bad at saying no. But I am good at pivoting. I mean, today, look, there's so many opportunities, and we're like, my dad was with one company for 40 years. End of story. But it's just not like that today, right? For entrepreneurs, you're certainly going to reinvent yourself more than once. I mean, there's just no way you're not going to. That's the world we live in.
100%. If you look back at the classic sort of question, you and I have been around for years. If you could send back to that 10-year-old Daven any sort of smart wisdom from your still youthful self, what would you share? What would you wish you knew earlier?
I would have done it all different. So I was a college dropout. So I graduated high school at 16. So I graduated young. I was ready to start my business. I knew what I wanted to do. My parents wanted me to go to college, so I went to college. But when I was 17, I dropped out because my business took off. I didn't take school seriously. Had I had to do all over again, I would have got great grades in high school. I would have prepped for an exceptional Ivy League college. I would have gone to a great school. I probably would have studied law and maybe started out as a litigator and then traversed into something else. But why would I do that? Well, a couple of reasons. One, I always say if I had a degree, I would have worked for me, right? So I hire people with degrees, right? But look, there's plenty of college doesn't prepare you for practical business, but it gives you a lot of useful tools for sure that I definitely did not have. And also teaches you some ways of thought that I didn't have for sure. But the biggest reason is the network. So I am the ultimate networker, but it took me decades to figure out how to do that. And it took me decades to expand my network. Now I have a very serious network, but I didn't back then, when I was getting started. And so I could, let's say I went to Princeton. Well, there is, tens of thousands of alumni that are there to help you succeed, right? They're happy to help. They have all the resources you could ever need and want. And all you have to do is ask. And I would have killed for that network when I was getting started. And I didn't even know that it was an option. I didn't even know I could have done things differently. I just didn't know. So yeah, if I had to do it all over again, I would have got great. I would have taken school very seriously. I would have got great grades. I would have gone to a great school. I would have tried to be top of my class. I would have utilized that network to the nth degree. And I just would have got where I am today way faster. Way faster.
I love that. And it's part of what I personally found really challenging. The American mindset for entrepreneurship is so different than the European one and the UK one. Not they're not good or bad, but it's a different approach to raising capital and structuring deals. I just went there sort of young and naive, not having been immersed in it, and without that legal background, right? Like, I'm an accountant by training, that like wishing you could do that sort of general counsel thing, because it's really complicated. It's not trivial.
For sure.
And then coupled with COVID, like you and I haven't actually broken bread, as my friend calls it, for years.
Right.
Goes, yeah, this guy Daven's like, yeah, I know Daven. And we, thanks to Ken MacArthur, weirdly, with the impact group he was doing, it's those real relationships that to me are the priceless bits. And that's just me being a bit transparent, right? That's the stuff that matters in a world that's really busy and changing. Having that connection, it's really good. I like that a lot. You obviously written books, you've made movies. Is there any book or movie that's helped you sort of upgrade, reset your brain and thinking over the years?
I devour a lot of content, but now it's just like kind of lots of books and lots of podcasts and lots of audiobooks and lots of content online. It's a different way. But if we're going back to like books and or movies that were impactful, books, there was a book I read so many years ago. Oh my gosh, I can't even remember the name of it. It'll come to me. It's a famous book. but that was very impactful. Of course, I read all the, Napoleon Hills and all that stuff. And sure, that was impactful too. It was just so long ago. I read books all the time. But it's just incrementally, yeah, exactly. Movie wise, I'm a big documentary buff, so I just watched a ton of documentaries. But yeah, and nothing specific sort of comes out right now. I mean, over the last month or two, I've read some amazing books. Right now, I'm primarily reading, on longevity, so and biohacking and what have you. That's my interest at the moment. So
as you get the polymath, it sort of all blends in right after a while. You see the threads and
yeah. Well, I'm very interested in anti-aging and longevity, especially at my age, right? And so I'm just learning all these incredible hacks, and it's really fun. It's fun to be able to see it, So yeah, it's pretty cool.
And we're in an interesting area at that stage, like Ray Dalio, his work, Ray Kurzweil.
Yeah, so I'm reading his and Tony's book right now.
Yeah, so the space between AI meets tech meets big data meets you don't need to be that job doing that to get other things done. That's part of the bigger reset that's going to happen. Like I know I grew up with that lovely black sort of fizzy drink over my life. You know what I'm talking about, right? Without mentioning it.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's like, why did I do that for 20 years? Because somewhere the marketing worked.
Well, I'll tell you what's funny is, so I think I'm a little older than you are. I was actually approached to buy the Avion IPO.
Wow.
And I was like, who would pay for water? Like, that's the dumbest idea ever, because back then we all drank Coke as if it was water. You drank Coke. You didn't drink water. Who the hell drank water, right? So crazy. What a shift, right?
And there's more to come. Even that conversational longevity is really interesting, getting into the 200-year lifespan plus. And I love it's on I'll let you sort of share your quote from your site. It isn't just like being a long life. It's actually having that adventure and living a life you want to really live, right?
Yeah, living your true life adventure. That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Beautiful. Obviously, some people listening into the show maybe want to like make that reset, maybe come join you in Puerto Rico. You're like, it's so sunny over there.
Yeah, I love to watch the boats come in. So I was just looking and see. It's funny. I was hanging out the other day. I think I was doing an interview. Yeah, and I was waiting for a buddy of mine who's a crypto billionaire to come in his yacht. He was coming in from San Juan to see me. He's got a 130-foot yacht. So it's kind of neat. So I'm just kind of seeing who's coming in and out.
No. I can say, what's your biggest suggestion? Somebody that wants to make that reset. Maybe they haven't got that financial success or the relationship success, and they're going, "I want it now." Like, what's the Daven approach? What sort of step one, step two?
Yeah, I mean, the more planning you can do, the better, right? So if you want to make a move, sit down, map it out, work on your projections, see what it's going to take, see how long it's going to take you to break even and start making some money, get it all figured out, make sure you're capitalized enough to pull it off. Plan, right? And then if it works, I mean, if you can make it happen, then you do it, right? And sometimes you have to bring in investors, and if it's sexy enough, you can do that. But I think the key is definitely a lot of planning, future pacing, figuring out what it's all going to be, before you do it. And then of course it won't end up at all like you think it's going to, but at least you have a roadmap, a business plan, something to follow initially. So
I love that. Plan, and it won't turn out that way. And it's so true.
Exactly.
That's I think what I sense and I see with people like yourself and Mike and others that we know from the old days. Over that decade, you're still the same people, but you've got different skill sets, opportunities. Sure. So when new things show up, you're like, yeah, we can do that. And it's easy.
Yeah, you have to be flexible in your approach. Absolutely. As an entrepreneur. Yeah.
Beautiful. Obviously, we've covered a lot of ground. I love what you shared about Puerto Rico. Can't wait to get out there and also just reconnect. And that earlier thing you touched on, that the philanthropy aspect, has that always been a driver for you?
No, not always. So we haven't done events in a while, but we used to do events for like a decade, and there would always be a philanthropic component. We'd always, collect some money, give it to Children's Hospital or something like that. So I dabbled, but in Puerto Rico, I really started to do way more of it, and there were a couple of reasons why. First of all, and just in this time in my life, it's what I wanted to do. Right? I knew that there would be, a lot of people, get heavy into philanthropy early on, and they should. But for me, I was busy building my companies, and I paid a little bit of attention, but not a lot. But you get to a point where it's like, you have enough money, and you want to leave some legacy, right? And so that was one of the reasons that I started doing it. The second reason, or started doing it more, the second reason was because, like I said, I can make a much bigger impact in a small place. Like over the last 15 years, we actually have done a lot of philanthropic stuff in the Philippines, and we made a huge difference. Like I could buy, flip-flops for 1,000 people for like nothing, so we did things like that for thousands. That was really cool. So the three reasons, one was, legacy. Two was being able to make an impact in a small space. And then also, this is kind of neat. So with the tax programs they have in Puerto Rico, one of the things you have to do, you have to donate to local charities. So on an annual basis,
regulations, like you have to.
It's a part of the deal. If you want to not pay taxes, you have to do it. Yeah. And so the act. So what happens is when you come in, you file everything with the government, and then you sign an agreement with the government. I think it's good for 20 years plus a 10-year option. And you're grandfathered into the conditions of that agreement. But those conditions change slightly from year to year, but you're grandfathered. So I'll give you some examples. The program I'm in used to be called Act 2022. Now it's called Act 60. It's been around for, I believe, 11 years. In the early days, when you came in, one of the conditions was you had to hire employees in Puerto Rico. Now, you actually don't have to. I still hire people in Puerto Rico, but I don't have to. Okay. But the people who had that in their contract, they do. So they may have come in 10 years ago. If they have to hire employees here, then they have to do it. It's part of their agreement. When I came in, you did not have to buy a home. You didn't have to buy property, even though we did buy houses. We didn't have to. Now, people who come in now, they have to buy. You have 2 years to do it, so you can rent and check out different parts of the island, decide where you want to live. But then at 2 years, you have to buy. I think that's amazing, right? I mean, what it has done for the real estate market is astounding, right? So if you owned real estate here, that's great. So when I came in, as a part of my contract, I have to give $5,000 a year to an approved charity here in Puerto Rico. That's great. If you come in now, you have to give $10,000, which is even better. So if you kind of average that out, let's say everyone has to give, let's say $6,000, and I believe there's about 8,000 or 9,000 of us Act 60ers. So I'm just going to calculate that on 8,000. So that means there's a compulsory almost $50 million that has to be given to local charities every year.
Right? In a similar capacity, that's
it's really cool. And it's also very diverse, right? So it's going to all different types of organizations. And so, when you have to do it, I think it shifts your mindset. It becomes a baseline. So I have to do that, and I do that, and I do a lot more. And I think a lot of people do. And I'm here, I do my toy drives and my fundraisers, and our people contribute. And so it's great. It's great. And obviously it's, you're doing good for others, but really it's a selfish pursuit, right? Because it makes you feel great,
I see you living what we call the ecosystem stuff. So rather than big LA, New York, you can't really shift the whole of LA very easily unless you're Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? Yeah. So you're a small bit. In London, you might think you're moving, impacting London. Yeah, London sort of eats you alive. I love London, but you go back, you hadn't actually not been around for a few years. In that island where it is, 3 years' time, the person you help, they're now doing a restaurant or a cafe or a business or a charity or the hospital, and it creates that thriving environment, which is what you want to live there. It's the flourishing. That's part of the bigger mindset reset we see going on.
Absolutely. And by the way, just talking about these programs and their impact and stuff, they're making a big impact on the island. The other day I was ordering some tile for a remodel that we were doing. And I was asking the tile people, I was like, how has Act 60 impacted your business? They're like a 10x their business. It's huge for them, huge for their employees, huge for the kids of their employees, big time. It can really impact a lot of people. If you own real estate, and then now the Act 60ers have to buy real estate, that helps you out. It uplifts the market, right? A rising tide lifts all boats. It's not perfect, because there's inflation, right? And there's a lot of reasons why it's not perfect. If you work at McDonald's, it does not affect you at all. As a matter of fact, inflation goes up, your dollars become worth
It
less.
can make it worse. And like our friends in Hawaii, they've seen the land that was theirs, and not getting into the politics of it, they can't now afford to pay the taxes and buy the land because the whole thing's gone so skewed. It's a whole
and I'll speak to that a little bit, because we have a lot of that claim here in Puerto Rico. And I'm going to say that it is somewhat true and somewhat not true. So let me explain. So there are some, hardworking Puerto Ricans that are really, trying to get into those amazing real estate markets that they may have become priced out of. But they would have gotten priced out. For most of them, they would have been priced out of the market anyways, right? So it's the idea of kind of the colonizers, right? People coming from somewhere else and taking your land. But my experience with that is I have not seen that to be the case, So quite often that is said, it makes for great headlines. I don't know necessarily whether that's true or not. I'm sure there's a certain amount of truth to it and a certain amount of untruth to it.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Out in Tahiti, we did some charity. I've had a charity for like 7 years now, been around it 20 years. And out in French Polynesia, it's this complete diversity between the kind of property even Elon would go, can I afford it? I'm joking about Elon, but you get it. It's like crazy numbered private islands.
And super poverty.
Oh, beyond like,
and that is third world countries, right? That's how they are. There's super insane, ultra wealthy, and then there's disparity, and then there's no middle, right? Puerto Rico is not like that. We are one of the poorest territories in the nation. So we have poverty for sure, but we have a strong middle class as well. So.
And you're part of that US framework as well, right? So people can travel. That sort of changes the game somewhat.
Yeah, you don't need a passport if you're a US citizen. And we have minimum wage, which is probably one of the reasons I don't know if that's necessarily the reason we have a middle class, but it might lend to it.
It's part of the bigger conversation we're getting into. And I know you being there, creating these networks, opportunities will be flourishing over time as well. So I know your mindset with 1, 2, 3 back in the day, it was that employee to entrepreneur to sort of enlightened entrepreneur is you living more and more. So we have to wrap up, I'm sure, at your side in a few minutes. Is there anything I haven't asked you wish I had just sort of to get the last juice out of you for our listeners today?
I think we covered most of it. If you live in the States, and even if you don't live in the States, if you want to just go on an awesome adventure with us, come on the San Juan Social Club cruise. We'll post something.
Sell out, right? You're going to sell out. Like already,
we already are pretty close to sold out. But I know these podcasts they live for a long time, right? And so. The next cruise is in March of 2024, but you might be watching this in 2025, so that cruise may not be sold out. We want you to come. So this will go on for years and years. The Marketer's Cruise is in its 17th year. So that's the kind of the legacy I want to pass on here in Puerto Rico.
And that beauty of it sort of building and growing. And the thing it wasn't just, yes, people made money. It was those lives that changed, the single mum, the single dad, the young kid.
For sure.
Ripple effect.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So big time. What is the website for the cruise so they hear it from your mouth, not me?
Sure. SanJuanSocialCruise.com. That's SanJuanSocialCruise.com. You can get all the details there. If you want to check me out, I'm Daven Michaels on everything. So my website is DavenMichaels, and I'm at Daven Michaels on all social media except TikTok, which is Daven Michaels 1. But my content on TikTok is not great anyways. I don't care that much about TikTok. So that's just me.
How does somebody best get in touch with you? Is that LinkedIn? Is that like every channel you've got? You are the outsource master, right? So
everything's Daven Michaels. You can go to Instagram, Daven Michaels, anywhere.
Nice. If you look ahead a decade from now, right? Like if everything goes to plan with who knows, what do you see as the future for you sort of 10 years out if it all works out?
I really want to semi-retire. I know everybody's like, "Oh, I'm going to take over the world and do this and that." I've had plenty of that. I hope in the next decade, I really do slow down. I would love to just be doing San Juan Social Club and charity work. That would be fine with me. I would love that, and still traveling and speaking, which is really my passion. That's it. I mean, I just. Yeah, I've been to 51 countries. I've been paid to speak in 51 countries. I would like to check out another 100 or so countries. And I love it. I love to be, I get bored being in the same place for too long. And so, yeah, so I don't, if I'm in Spain, I'm probably doing the same thing I'm doing right now. I'm on my computer, I'm talking to people, this, that, but I would rather be in different countries doing this. Like, I just love to travel and see the world. So,
and we can do that today, right? Right now, what's your internet? It's a really bizarre question in 2023 December. So over in the UK, the top is like 1 gig per second up and down in London, down here, 100 meg. What have you got there at home? Are you on gigabit internet or not quite yet?
So they have it here. Yep. And they're putting it here in this neighborhood, or somebody actually said they already have it. I have 400 here. I think I can push it to 500. But I know they either have gig here or they're about to. I know in San Juan they have it. So,
and the reason I bring it up for that traveling thing, it opens up for you with literally one of these, not this model, but a future model, traveling with 8K video, holographic, anywhere on the planet.
Yeah, and there's Wi-Fi everywhere you go, right? I mean, yeah, internet's plentiful now. So
not everywhere yet. It's part of the fun, by the way. Some good friends.
Almost.
Well, no,
if not, you tether, right? 10% doesn't have Wi-Fi, you tether.
Even in the UK, literally, there's Wi-Fi dead zones still, mobile phone dead zones that goes to 3G. Like, you're sitting there going 3G. Like, you live in the nice world, you end up in a 3G zone with no data. It's suddenly off.
I do get that. So I use T-Mobile, and T-Mobile gives you unlimited international. It's the greatest deal. Like, it's my greatest value next to my gym membership. I think I pay $100 a month, and that's for unlimited international. But when you're traveling outside your country, it is choked down. It's choked down to 3G. So if you want to go back in time, you experience
the reason I bring it up is that ability to travel and work wasn't there before, right? And especially with proper teams and you haven't really plugged. I wish you would. 123 Employee will find a way to help them get more engaged with that, because if you haven't got anybody ever outsourcing anything of your work, it's a big mistake. The podcast today, I'm not editing it. My guy James does it, right? He's amazingly does, and that sort of team bit is so vital, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
So look, thank you so much today, Daven. It's been an absolute pleasure getting you on the show for Pause Reset.
Pleasure is all mine.
I really love the reminder that luck needs to be on our side. It is required, and you can't sort of fake or make your own luck. That money thing about being the catalyst for progress may have ring a few bells there for us, I'm sure, but that's really true. And again, plan, and know things won't turn out like you plan, right? So, absolute pleasure, Daven. We'll see you in a few months, and thank you for being on the show today. Bye for now.
Thanks for having me. Bye, guys.
Once again, I'm Simon Hedley. Thank you for listening to this episode of Pause, Stop, Reset, which is brought to you by the team at simonx.com and published by thesimpleidea.com. So you get maximum value and to access all the bonuses and gifts, make sure to head to pause.reset.com, register and explore the portal. And if you're looking for great people, check out onesmartnetwork.com. If you've enjoyed the show, do give us a positive review, subscribe, and share this episode with friends. I can't wait to share our next episode with you. Till then, remember, you can always choose to pause, stop, reset.